Welcome to The Wanderer's Compass, a Big Blend radio travel podcast featuring Joelle May and Ryan Slough. So everyone, today we get to go back to Sint Maarten, and this is the island that Ryan and Joelle went to. We talked about it last month on the Wanderer's Compass podcast. The link is in the episode for part 1, so you can hear about their adventures in Sint Maarten, Saint Maarten, and Anguilla. Now, I'm probably not pronouncing all of those correctly, but I'm sorry to the people of those places, but I'm going to have to come visit and get it right. So I'm going to bring Ryan and Joelle back on because today's show really focuses on 3 special interviews with 3 special people. So first I want to bring Ryan on to just give people a little taste of what Sint Maarten is about, what it was like being there. From there, everyone gathered to get them over to Saint Maarten and Anguilla, right, Ryan? So it seems like a very hospitable destination.
Yeah, it's a great blend of Europe and Caribbean, and it's a beautiful island. We got Sint Maarten south, which is the Dutch side, and then the French side up north, which is Saint Maarten. We were lucky enough to get invited there by Sarah Wescot-Williams, which is the president of parliament for Sint Maarten. We met her back in the UN last year, and it took a lot of getting, coordinating to get it, but then it kind of popped up, and then we're like, okay, well, we got to go. And they coordinated everything. And then we went from, going to the Sint Maarten side and, getting shown around to then moving on to Saint Maarten. And then we're even able to coordinate to get over to Anguilla and see that island as well. So it was pretty amazing experience, great food, great people. Saint Maarten is, it's called the Friendly Island, and you can, from all the people we met, especially the ones that were coordinating everything with us, like Sarah Wescot-Williams, definitely embody that. So
that's excellent. I mean, everyone, again, go to the link in the episode notes to the article and also to Joelle and Ryan's podcast magazine. It's got articles and podcasts. But so, Joelle, this is really like one island, 2 islands. Because there's a lot of cultures mixed in here. So how is, for everyone thinking of going there, are you island hopping, or is it one big island with different people owning it kind of thing?
That's a good. So they describe it as 2 countries, 1 heart. So the island of Saint Maarten is not actually a very big island at all. It doesn't take long to go from one side to the other, but it's basically split in half. And the north side is French, the south side is Dutch, and then there's this island of Anguilla, which is up a little bit north, which is about a 20-minute boat ride from Sint Maarten, and that is UK. It's English. So you've got very different cultures all mixed in, but they really do all mesh very, very well. And Ryan described it perfect. There's definitely a feel of Europe there, which is very different than I've experienced in any other Caribbean island we've been to, but it's very much Caribbean as well in the heart. So we had the privilege and honor to interview 3 people. As Ryan mentioned, we met Sarah Wescot-Williams back when we actually were at the United Nations back in September, and I had given a talk on travel and sustainability, and then she approached us and said, we'd love you to come to our island and as our guests. And we just were like, oh my gosh, that would be so amazing. And she not only was she president of parliament and still is, she was the former and first prime minister of Sint Maarten. So this long history of tying to where the island is today is definitely around Sarah. And it was an incredible interview, and she's so passionate and so kind, and we were just thrilled to have that time with her. May-Ling Chun was the other person we interviewed. She's the director of tourism in Sint Maarten and helped coordinate this whole visit and actually connect us with people from the Saint Maarten side and the Anguilla side. She was amazing. We were just absolutely spoiled. But how they spoiled us was giving us a true sense of the people, the culture, the food, the music. We were there for Carnival, and that in itself was an amazing experience. So that interview really speaks to where they're going, the direction, and where they've been in relation to tourism, because they're really approaching away from beach and sand to culture and food and just music, everything about it. So they're really trying to get more of a story out than versus just, a place to lay on the beach. And finally, our third interview was not a planned one. And we were really excited for this person because he is very much at the heart of the island. He has so many roles over his years from this in Sint Maarten, and he's a musician, he's an entrepreneur, he's a composer, he's a songwriter. It's an amazing story. So his name was Clarence, and he was our last of the 3 interviews, and just really enjoyed hearing his view of where the island, where the music's going. And these are all 3 people who are just truly are passionate about it. None of them are originally from the island, but they all made it their home, which is what I think was so special, and their passion stood out to us. So again, as Brian mentioned, they're known as the Friendly Island, and these people, I think, exemplify that.
Amazing. And we get to have a little clip of music from Clarence
Yes,
at the end of his interview, so everyone can have a listen to that. So very exciting. Everyone stay tuned, enjoy the conversations. And again, the link for the article is in the episode notes. The link for episode 1 of this destination that we all want to go to now is there too. So thank you both so much.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Today, we're honored to welcome one of the most respected and influential voices in the modern history of Sint Maarten, former and first Prime Minister of Sint Maarten, Sarah Wescot-Williams. She currently serves as the President of Parliament and helped guide the country through one of the most important periods in its history following constitutional change within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Her leadership and public service have played a defining role in shaping the island's political identity, governance, and future direction. Beyond politics, Sarah Wescot-Williams is widely recognized for her thoughtful leadership, deep understanding of Caribbean affairs, and long-standing commitment to the people of Sint Maarten. Her perspective offers unique insight into the island's evolution, its challenges, and its aspirations moving forward. Sarah, it is truly a pleasure and honor to have you with us today. Can you share a bit about your personal story and your connection to Sint Maarten?
Yes, sure. And I am so grateful and happy to be able to do so. And in fact, Joelle, when you refer to our first meeting and meeting up actually in New York, and when you approached me, it was because of how I spoke about St. Maarten. And I'm sure that ignited a flame in terms of you wanting to visit this island that I spoke about. So I'm so happy that you've made it and that you and Ryan are here on St. Maarten at this time. And it's, first of all, it's a very cultural time right now. It's a Carnival celebration on St. Maarten. And the Carnival here in St. Maarten is very special because you get to see not only the culture of St. Maarten, the food, you get to taste the food. It really is a culmination of all of those things. But let me back up a moment, and that is that St. Maarten is actually a country, a constituent country, like we like to call it, within the Dutch kingdom. We make up 4 countries, 4 constituent countries. And I say this to explain the uniqueness of our island. So while we, the citizens of this island, we carry a European passport, we're very, very much Caribbean. And then to add to that uniqueness is, of course, the fact that we share this small landmass with another nation. But we're actually one people. I'm sure if they did not mention to you that now you're crossing into the French side of the island, the north side, as we like to call it here, you would not have known. And so indeed, I have many years in public service, and I have had many of those years as part of the Netherlands Antilles. And those are all the Caribbean islands that were and still are, some of them, part of the Dutch kingdom. And in 2010, we got this status of constituent country, and along with Aruba, Curacao, and the Netherlands. And since then, so when you referred earlier to the former and first prime minister, it is because the term 2010 through 2014, I was prime minister of this, as we called it, this young country at the time. And since 2014, I have been serving in the new parliament because we did not know parliaments and ministers. We did not know those offices before 2010. And since then, I have been serving as member of parliament, and currently, and I've held this position before as the president, so leading the Parliament of Sint Maarten.
And that your history again with this island and your passion for it, I think that's what struck me when I saw you at the United Nations, both in that Women's Day event before the General Assembly and then at the day of the General Assembly at the side event. Your passion for your country, your people, just exudes from you. And that was something that was so capturing. And then when you approached us about coming, it just felt right because it was like, I want to see what she loves.
Yes.
That literally comes from her heart and lights her up when you speak about it. And I think
and it's so true. And that's indeed the way that I picked it up. And I was like, you need to experience it. And since then, we have been in touch. And I'm so happy that our tourist office here, was finally able to arrange that you could come to St. Maarten and experience for yourself. And just to give you again some background, I was born on St. Maarten, and I was born on the French side of St. Maarten. I was born on the French side because my mother was a housekeeper, and she would be keeping house, so to speak, cleaning, in other words, homes, more affluent homes, on both the Dutch and the French side. And she happened to be on the French side for my birth. Yes, so that's a special bond with this duality of the country. And I come from a little village, and that's my father's side, that today you wouldn't recognize the littleness in it because that is Simpson Bay. That's just before you get to the airport, and it's now a bustling.
And that is where we're staying. We're staying at a condo in Simpson Bay, and what a love, just a genuine, authentic experience.
And that's where my father and his forefathers and foremothers are from. And it was a little fishing village, actually. So recognizing that and seeing where our island is today, I can't help but speak about it by, encourage others to look at, love our country as well. And because I think, and you might say I'm biased, but it's special in so many ways. The small land mass that we occupy, the attraction that we have been, because while many other islands here in the Caribbean in the early 60s, late 50s, early 60s, were talking about their political future in terms of going independent, in terms of becoming associated states of the so-called mother countries back then, because we all were coming out of the colonial days. And so while many of them were talking about, okay, what do we do now? Do we become independent countries? Do we go into a status before independence? But on St. Maarten, things were so bad here on the island because we did not get any attention. We were struggling as an island. And the leaders at that time said, no, first, the economic survivability of our people comes. And then we will deal with the constitutional and the political future and what political status, we would want. So we had a jump ahead where tourism was concerned. And therefore we became an attraction, and we also became an economic refuge for many of the Caribbean islands. That's why there are so many different nationalities here on this island, and many of them have been here for generations and have contributed to the building. So that kind of multicultural, multilingual, environment that you encounter here, it's actually because of that.
We heard it was actually 110 different nationalities that is in this island.
In fact, It is, yes.
And that's incredible. And as we meet people, we're just fascinated because we have spoken to so many incredible people during our just already a couple of days here. And what we learned so much is, their mom was from the French side, their dad, or Anguilla,
yes.
but then their kids now live in France and their kids live in the Netherlands. This is a very worldwide community. You really sense this connection, and people are very well traveled. Everyone we met, they have been everywhere.
Yes,
and you see it in the people here, but you don't feel it. It's like all the people I hear you say it's 110 nationalities. I wouldn't know it. I feel like it's just one island, one people, which I think is great that we have all these languages and all these people from different backgrounds, and they choose to stay here or come here and settle here, and it brings so much to what this place is.
Yeah. And I'm so proud of this country, because when we were fighting for this new status, this new political status that we got in 2010, there were many naysayers, because we were up against, at the time, the Netherlands as a country, a much bigger country, a much more, with a country with much more history behind it, political and otherwise. And we're like, we think it's time that we get from under that centralized governance. And, it was like a no. And in 2000, the people of Sint Maarten, they actually chose the status that we have today. So since that time, since the year 2000 until 2010, I have put everything I had mentally, physically into achieving that status that we have today. And it's because of that I was appointed the first prime minister of the country. There's a little story behind it, because in that election, for the country's officials at the time in 2010, our party was at one of its lowest points. And still in that situation, so we were the smallest party at the time in the coalition, but everyone viewed me as the person to become the first prime minister of the country. Yes, because of the history in terms of fighting for the new status that we got in 2010.
That's incredible.
Now, I mean, after meeting you, which is this next question makes sense, or the phrase, but also now coming here, I really see it and feel it. But St. Maarten's known as the friendly island. So from that perspective, what does that identity mean to you and the people that live here?
It means exactly that. This is the St. Maarten people. This is the St. Maarten person. We realized, because of having our main economic pillar is tourism, and we were and have been so proud of our country that we were so inviting and welcoming and so friendly. So by getting that name, it was because of this attitude. We love our island. We want to share it with others. We expect you to respect it as well, and so that friendliness has been there and is still there. It is something that we also try for others who have come to the island in search of employment, for them to emulate as well, that friendliness. Before years, in the tourism industry, we were promoted just by, as we call it, word of mouth, because of those who came and they went back and they spoke to friends and families and colleagues, and it is and everyone was always, it's the people. It's the people. And that is a reputation that we want to maintain, even in this digital world that we live in, where it's so easy to get negative comments and negative reviews. We try to maintain that image of St. Maarten.
And we can both speak to that. The friendliness there, the warmth of the people, no matter who you meet and in what conditions, it's really quite impressive and uniquely so compared to many of the Caribbean islands I visited, as well as Ryan, and then both of us combined. there's something special here.
Oh,
There's
thank
something,
you.
and I love the one of the things we were told there, a little bit of Europe and a lot of Caribbean.
Yeah.
And that is so true because you very much feel the European influence here, but then there's so much of the Caribbean vibe and the energy and the beauty.
Sure.
So it speaks so well to who you are here in Sint Maarten.
And Joelle, in many of our songs as well, and we look at it, one island, one people, and one destiny, so all of us going, in the same direction.
And having been on both sides of the island on our first day here, we agree. You really don't know where one ends and one starts.
Yeah.
It is one island.
And both sides have their own little uniqueness with it, and so together that makes it very, very charming, a very charming island. And, also the challenges that are globally out there, we to face them in terms of climate change and climate change adaptations, and, the vulnerability of small islands. So, we try to keep kind of ahead of that and, look at, especially at our bigger, the bigger country within the Dutch kingdom to also assist us with those type of issues going forward.
And that leads perfectly. That's a good segue into our next question. Is when we met, we were at this United Nations side event that actually spoke about sustainable tourism and the importance of being aware of, the cultural resources, heritage, water protection, sanitation, and so forth. So obviously, as tourism grows here, and that's, how do you, as a country, see the role in protecting cultural heritage, preserving authenticity, and especially keeping the local identity that makes this country so special?
Yeah. And, we have not only come to realize it in terms of a shifting tourism pattern, but also how important it is for our own people to recognize that and realize that there's so much more to be had, so much more to be told about ourselves and our cultures. And today, that's what visitors are looking for. They want to know about the island, not just like we used to. Formerly, it was the sun, sea, and sand. Sun, sea, and sand. Come for the sun, come for the sea, and the beaches and the white sand. But today we proudly also focus on some of the more cultural aspects of this island, the history that so many people want to learn about, about St. Maarten. And what's this thing with the dual nations that you guys are? So you are Dutch? Or are you not Dutch? But you speak English. But still, sometimes in Parliament, you have where our laws are drafted in Dutch, so that kind of, And, so we just love to explain it and also show, how far we've come as a country. But again, when it comes to our culture, we have kind of also adopted that shift in realizing our visitors want more and our people want to preserve our culture and our heritage.
I think that's one of the biggest things like we've learned here. It's like you can eat the food, but why is the food the way it is? Like you can look at the art, but why is the art that certain way? Or why, like when the Carnival, and stuff that we're seeing, like why are the outfits, why are they this way? Or why is the music a certain way? What are they saying and why? And that's always just extra treat every time you learn these little things. And you're like, oh, it makes sense, or you learn a little bit of darker history about things. And it's like, that's important. And to, preserve that, it makes it lets everyone know why you are the way you are.
Yeah.
And why you keep, growing and being, so unique.
Yes.
So with that, with your cultural, what do you think everyone overlooks the most here in your culture? And what do you think needs most protection?
Our identity as a country, because it is not always clear to outsiders, but who are they? Who are these people of? They're Dutch people. You know, that's a rich country. We often hear this when you have cooperation, agreements in terms of funding for things like climate change. And I mean, you name it. And we're like, no, you know, we are part of a constellation, but we fund the majority of the things that need to happen in this country. So see us, and to your question, Ryan, see us as a small Caribbean nation with its vulnerabilities, but at the same time, willing to move forward, you know, in the world. And I think people often overlook that. That's a Dutch country. You know, that's a Dutch country in the Caribbean. And they speak Dutch. No, absolutely. We are in fact, we are Caribbean. We are Caribbean. And I think that is often overlooked when persons hear about Sint Maarten. It's often overlooked too that we're actually two nations, you know, and French and Dutch, and people need to understand, but what does that mean? You know? And so yeah, that is something that is often, you know, overlooked. Not only overlooked, but people just don't understand who we are. And then we need to continuously, and that's why the promoting of our island in terms of who we are, where we are, and our aspirations is so important.
They need to come here and find out for themselves.
Exactly.
And that's what we've come here and in the first few days are in absolute awe and just absorbed by the people. We're actually going to go to our Carnival parade tomorrow, which we're so excited about because this will be our first experience like that. And I'm just, after meeting so many people and seeing this island, I think it's going to be an experience of a lifetime. So we just are absolutely thrilled to be part of this.
We can mark that one off our bucket list.
Yes, for sure. And I will be in that parade.
Will you?
Ever sporting a cultural outfit, because our carnival today, that is all about the costumes and the big pieces and the feathers and the beads and the whatever have you, but it actually came from a cultural parade. And so slowly we're going back to that as well. So all of the big groups of carnival, the troops of carnival as we call them, also have a small section in which it's the more cultural outfits that will be worn.
Oh, this will be fascinating.
And I'm excited. One of those.
We'll be taking pictures. We'll be doing videos. So to end this on a personal note, so we want to know sort of, you've obviously, this is your whole life is here. What is your favorite local dish or food experience on the island that you feel that no one should miss when they're visiting?
You know, when you come here, you cannot miss a good fried fish, whole fish.
Whole fish. We haven't done that yet.
Fried fish.
I had the appetite to do that, but
you cannot miss a good made Johnny cake. Lots of islands talk about Johnny cakes, but if you get the right person to get you one on Sint Maarten, there's nothing like it.
They're
and
incredible.
A good stewed conch. Stewed conch.
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 We had a different solution. Which one did we have?
We had the boudin. Boudin.
You had the boudin of it. Okay.
That was the first time I ever had it.
Okay. You had a conch boudin.
Yes.
Had a few new things.
Okay. It's stew conch, and then in that you have the little flour dumplings. Small, conch and dumplings. So when it comes to a good fried fish, there are not many persons who could do accompanying peas and rice like we can.
Oh, your peas and rice here? Oh my goodness. I just had some for lunch. Oh my goodness.
A good Johnny cake, but it needs to be good, because there are a lot of imitation Johnny cakes. You need to get a good Johnny cake. I put a bite into a Johnny cake and I know right away what
she's a Johnny cake snob. Now you know your Johnny cake.
and your stew conch and dumpling. Make sure you get some of that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, Sarah, any last minute messages you want to send to guests to say, what would your be message and why they should come here? What would be your closing remark to future tourists that will come here?
You know, we are an island in the Caribbean, and there are a lot of similarities. As islands, as I mentioned before, many of us have the sun, the sea, and the sand, but St. Maarten is special. And I think that specialness comes from the people here. You have to experience them to understand what I'm saying. So come not only to experience our island, but come to experience the people, come to experience the local cuisine here on St. Maarten, which is different than most places. So you have to come to experience what we consider so special about this country.
And that is the best closing note we could have. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's been an absolute privilege.
Thank you.
Okay, we are here. Ryan and I are here right now interviewing May-Ling Chun, who is the director of tourism for Sint Maarten. Today, we're joined by the leader whose work has helped shape modern tourism story of Sint Maarten. May-Ling Chun brings more than 30 years of experience in hospitality and tourism, including nearly 3 decades dedicated to the island's growth and global positioning. From strategic planning and destination marketing to crisis management and product development, she has played a central role in strengthening the foundation of Sint Maarten's tourism industry. As director of tourism, May-Ling has guided the island through some of the most defining moments. Her leadership spans global market development and enhancing the overall visitor experience. With a career that includes roles in hotel management, international tourism representation, and private sector innovation, she brings both depth and perspective to the conversation. May-Ling, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me, and welcome to St. Maarten.
Thank you so much. It has been an amazing few days, and we can't wait to share the story more through the blog, through the podcast, because there is so many stories to tell. So we're going to start off with our first question is, can you share your personal journey, how you came into your role, and what St. Maarten means to you personally?
Sure. Actually, it goes back way back in high school. And I was actually in a summer job, because I always said I was going to study to become an interior designer, not a decorator, but interior designer. For some reason, that was what I wanted to do. And then one summer, all of us decided we were going to find summer jobs. And we ended up at a hotel in Curacao where I became a waitress. And as I was doing that, I was looking at everything, like the managers and the general manager coming to the special cocktail reception where there were VIP people. I said, I kind of like this. And seeing the guests checking in and the guest satisfaction, I was like, I like that. There seems to be, a satisfaction to doing this kind of service. So hospitality service. So I said, you know what, I'm going to change. So what happened is my mind changed and I wanted to become I wanted to eventually become a general manager. So I studied international hospitality management. And that's how the journey started. And I went through, in the States to study. And then I did my master's though in business administration with a concentration in finance and marketing. And then worked in tourism board in the States, then came to St. Maarten in the private sector and established here, fell in love with St. Maarten, the diversity. And I basically started in the private sector to really cater towards events planning. I did hotel operations, all of that. And here I am today as the director of tourism, because I went from actually hotel business to the overall tourism development. And I really like that to see how we can evolve, because, tourism is ever evolving. So this is really my last, 25 years.
That's hard to imagine, isn't it?
Hard to imagine, yes. 25 years evolving the tourism industry of St. Maarten. Mm-hmm.
That's great. And that's just being that involved in not just the tourism, but I mean, your island as a whole. I mean, it just incorporates so much and you can really change a lot here with that. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you think about how St. Maarten is perceived globally, what do you think that people get right about your island, and what do they miss or what do they get wrong?
I think globally, I think we've put it out there that we are known to be two countries in one. I think if you ask 10 people, 9 will tell you, oh, you're that country that's French and Dutch. And the second thing they will see is, oh, you're that country that has the planes flying over the airport.
We actually looked at that today. We're like, oh, we should
Right?
go over there.
That actually gets us millions of views because of so many plane spotters all over the world. But if you look throughout the years, they'll be like, yeah, you're that tiny island, French and Dutch. You're 2 countries, right? And so I think we got that right. And then what we have is that people don't know St. Maarten yet. There's so much more to show them still because we're so diverse. I think during your trip now, you've noticed.
Absolutely.
We can go from quiet luxury to go down, immerse with people and know the culture of Carnival, which is one of the things, and to just making friends, making new friends. And that's why we're called the Friendly Island. So I feel that a lot of times what we are still have to expose is a bit more of the diversity and the culture and the heritage, the people. And that is what we're doing now, because St. Maarten is known for the sun, sand, beach. It's known for the active, and of course the culinary. But as you notice, as I'm speaking, there is so much to show. So there's a little bit for everybody that I think we're not there yet to showcase. You kind of have to match the product with the person, with the target groups. And that is our job now to basically go step by step. Yes, the action, the partying that has been done. And now we need to immerse even more the culture, the people, and really feel in depth what St. Maarten is about. So that still has to come out.
And we've seen that. Well, we went up to the mountain and saw, there's the zip lining, and you see the people on the jet skis, doing these like crazy things like what you would kind of expect on a place like this. But then, it's obviously everyone has food. But when, we've gone to great local stuff, we did that, event the other night where we got to go to one of the booths and try all these, local foods and kind of like almost like street food, but, but then we've gone to these amazing fine dining, this Italian place, the chef from Italy, and it was fantastic, and people probably don't think like, oh, you're getting that aisle. It's just barbecue and whatever the local food, and it's not. And to have that, not only what that is, but then everyone tries to put their little local flair onto it, which I think makes it just a whole another level of what it is. It's not just like, okay, well, I got Italian food, like you can go Italian food anywhere, but what it was here was just that little extra that they're trying to create.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. And that's what people need to realize is, like you said, there's a lot more to it than just beach and sand and all this stuff. So
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Ryan, because that's the whole point of, I think we mentioned it before about over 100 nationalities here.
Yeah.
So like you see, seems to be like this where we kind of put a touch of certain cultures into. So even though if it's Italian, they put that extra touch and warmth to what they do. Yeah. Or even different Italian restaurants here. You went, for example, to this one particular one. There is another one, but they might be from Venice. The other one might be from Sicily. So you're getting this variety. Yeah. So we're so spoiled when it comes to food.
Yeah.
And we whip up all kinds of things,
Yeah, it's definitely, I didn't expect, I knew it was going to be good food, but the variety and the quality is surpasses what I expected. Yeah. So,
and one thing that we were definitely experience on multiple levels and is very a staple of your diet here is Johnny cakes.
Yeah.
Tell us all about Johnny cakes, because I didn't know what they were before I came, and each one we've tried is a little different. Tell us just what are Johnny cakes?
Johnny cakes are actually it's a staple in every family in the Caribbean, and some places call it Johnny cake, some places call it bakes. And Johnny cakes were originally actually called journey cakes, and they were made because it's easy to whip up. It's water, flour, sugar, salt, and some other ingredients that it varies between how people make it between the islands. It was the easy whip up, bread to take with you on your journey. So they were either made and put in the outside ovens or fried, and they're delicious. So, and you can open them up and put anything you want in them. A lot of people like it with cheese, or to put corned beef in it, because that's a big thing here too, locally. Like on a Sunday morning, eat some nice corned beef with Johnny cake. But saltfish and Johnny cake is a staple. And so that is what Johnny cake is about. And it is so comforting. The first thing you do is, like, every meal you go on the street food, or even in a restaurant, a local restaurant, the first thing you get is Johnny cakes.
Yeah, we've seen it pretty much everywhere. Yeah,
Right?
We've had a few. And
It's actually every meal we've had a
very good.
pretty
Yeah.
much Johnny cake with it, except at the Italian and French restaurants.
Exactly.
We're here. We've been so privileged to be here during Carnival and experience so much of that incredible culture of the island. But that is not your only event. You have like another big event coming up in June called the Sint Maarten's Flavors. So tell us more about that event, as well as maybe other events this year that people can be drawn to.
Sure. Let me start off with all different events that we have throughout the year. We're actually, and that's where our diversity comes in as well, that we didn't even discuss. It's like the yachting and the cruising and the sailing is big here. And I know it's, your area too, there is, like, Pacific West Coast, there's a lot of, sailing.
It's all about
And
the
yeah,
water.
exactly. Well, imagine now you're coming across right here in St. Maarten, where sailing is big. And so we have the cruisers, we have the big yachts, of course, the mega yachts, and then we have the cruise ships. But going back to the events, we kick off actually with the multi-hull challenge, which the multi-hulls, it's now in its 12th year, and it has grown from a couple of boats. So now I think they have 50 boats, and it's in February, and they do races. They even race to Saba and come back. It's a big event over the weekend, but the biggest one comes then Heineken Regatta. It's been 46 years. We just had ours, the 46th anniversary. And it's a big deal because over 100 boats from all kinds of categories race in the regatta, including those big Volvo boats. Yes, they come as well with teams from all over the world. And this year was the biggest amount of countries. I mean, they were coming from Lithuania to Switzerland, to Luxembourg, to Italy, to France. All over the world, they come
That's
to
amazing.
sail. Yes. And it's not only sailing around the island, which both the Dutch and French are part of it, because you'll see them sailing all around. And some people charter and go out to look at it. But it's also the events at night. We have this village again, but now on this side of the island, and they create food. Everything we do has food around it.
Of course.
So some of the
Yeah.
people you saw now in Carnival, you'll see at the village, and then you have like cute food trucks, and both from Dutch and French side come here, and you can enjoy the concerts we have, and then daytime they sail. So that is Heineken Regatta. Then we have SXM Festival, with right after, which is more the EDM electronic. So they have DJs from all over the world that come to St. Maarten in the second week of March. And then you have that following, which are actually pretty high income, influential people that enjoy this kind of music, that come to the island and enjoy at different locations, which combines, again, people, beach, food, and great atmosphere and great music. Then we follow from SXM Festival, we actually go into Carnival, which you've now experienced. And then after Carnival comes June, is St. Maarten Flavors. And that's the big one for us now. What we've done with St. Maarten Flavors, it's in its 5th year. And we decided, you know what, we're all about culinary, all about food. Why don't we have a platform, or why don't we have a month where people can try out all kinds of dishes and all kinds of restaurants? So we started off with asking the restaurants to sign up and say, okay, give us a special menu. So we had the first year 100 restaurants sign up, and you were able to choose. And we have a website for it, stmartenflavors.com, and you were able to choose where you want to eat. All kinds of cuisine. So what these restaurants did, they said, okay, I'll have this special menu. It's a 3-course or 4-course, or sometimes just 1 course. And including not only the tourists, the locals started using it as well. And it was such a nice experience. It's almost like Miami Spice does in the summer. So we did this. Now, after its 5th year, because let me just put this as well, the French side has one in November, which is called Gastronomique the gastronomic festival. And it's a different format. They bring chefs from all over the world. And as we know, the French side is known for its French, let's say real like culinary cuisine, right? Gourmet. So they have their event in November, and we used to have ours in November as well. So to complement each other, we decided we move to June. Since we already booked in November. Why don't we move to June? Because now you have something exciting for the whole month of June from the 1st to the 30th to highlight. And then what Gastronomic Festival will do is in June, be part of it to promote for people to come back in November and vice versa. So November, we're going to promote flavors so that people come back the next year in the summer. So this is our goal. So then what happened is we said, you know what, guys, it's very hard on the restaurants to have constantly come out with a menu just for flavors. So we said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make it a platform. Since we have a website, we're going to make now the branding St. Maarten flavors. So it's going to be year round now. This restaurants and chefs and whoever serves, bakers, mixologists, they all can sign up now, pay a fee for the whole year. And this way they have a platform that they can utilize it. They have a special item on their menu. And then June will become what we call St. Maarten flavors off the plate. That means you'll highlight one dish on your menu that already exists, and we'll promote that, and we'll promote the restaurants to go, and also for tourists to go everywhere. And then throughout the year, you utilize the platform to highlight whether it's a new item you have on the menu or the chef wants to demonstrate something. It is your platform now, and we're going to heavily brand that and promote it. And so that's how we evolved it now, because we want to make that the traffic where people go to say, okay, well, you know what? I want to try local food, or I want to try what are all the Asian type foods. They can go on and see it.
And that's definitely ties towards your goal to really make this a culinary destination. The food here is remarkable, and it's so diverse, and we have enjoyed so much different food here. We continue. I'm sure we'll do more in the days ahead as well. Right. And so that I think that platform sounds fascinating because it's a unique way to truly give the tourism industry a chance to highlight these restaurants, bring out what's new, unique, and new. Because a lot of people say, oh, that's a fascinating dish. This is something unique that they're doing. We had an incredible Italian dish that Ryan actually ordered it the other night, and he was just so blown away. It was so excellent. And again, it's something that was unique to the menu. It wasn't on the main menu. It was a special. And that the ability for these places to do that, but then that visitors can find a place to get that information. Because you don't want to be cruising every single restaurant's, website. That people don't have the time to do that. But you've made it a much more, that attracts me, and that will draw them to that destination.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, I haven't been yet to the restaurant, and now I'm going to go.
Because we shared our story last night.
Portofino, right?
So Portofino was the Italian restaurant we went to that actually is remarkable. The other restaurant that actually May-Ling took us to was, pardon my French, which was exceptional. And with my French background, being French originally, I was impressed with the menu. It was very authentic French, and the service was excellent. The restaurant was beautiful. We were just not expected to see such incredibly elegant, fine dining, but at the same time with such a relaxed, non-stuffy atmosphere. And I think that's wonderful, because sometimes with open dining, I have to dress up, I have to fancy, everyone's all prim and proper. It was a relaxed island atmosphere in very fine dining.
Yes.
And that blew us away.
Definitely.
So, going back to Carnival, because this is now 55 years. So we got to experience that. It was our first Carnival, which I think was, great. So we got to check off a few things, here. I've had different foods I haven't had. We got to go to a country I haven't been to, or an area of the world I haven't been to. And then now Carnival, which is another, check off the box. So having that as such a defining moment in your culture and what you do here, how do you ensure that it remains authentic while welcoming your global visitors? And what do you plan to do in the future to kind of preserve that?
Good question, actually, because we are so diverse. And as the generations, you know, you have the older ones, of course, retiring from reveling. We call it reveling, jamming, as the common word is used, to the new generation coming in. And as you know, the new generation comes with new music almost. But because we are so diverse, we have a tendency to have other people in other islands music. And what we're trying to do now is preserve our music. We have some talented artists. We have also Calypso. And so what we're trying to do from our perspective as a tourism bureau is we want to make sure that our junior Calypso, so Calypso continues in the schools and that we support those competitions, including the senior Calypso, but we have also some local, events, some local festivals, not festivals, how do you call them? Local concerts, like the one you experienced with Soca Rumble, which is Soca comes originally from Trinidad and Tobago, but we have made our own twist. So it was that evening, what you saw was actually our local artists that were champions. So you heard those songs, but you heard also the new ones.
Yeah.
And you can see how it's evolving, that they are taking it seriously and that we kind of hear our own music. And what we want to do is make sure that also within the parade that we hear more of our, local music and find our own genre as well, because it's a combination. So that is important for us to do, but also important to keep the traditions and alive and teach it also in school. Yeah. I feel this is something that we are busy with so many things that our job is also now in education for them to understand that this is part of the culture. Carnival comes from somewhere. It started and it has grown. But what is Carnival? Actually making your own costumes. Yeah. And a lot of times now it's been so modernized that costumes are not being made anymore. There's one or two that are now doing it still here, but we feel that has to go back into the schools.
Yeah.
Let's go back into the schools to teach them to weld, teach them to make the costume, but also teach them we have steel pan, but teach them to write Calypso. What does that mean? Write your lyrics. What do you want to write about? You can write about anything in life when it comes to Calypso. Yeah. And we want to see those things. And that is also the minister's goal, to see all of these important cultural stuff immerse more into the schools and almost make it part of the curriculum.
Yeah. And with the costumes you said and the history.
Yeah.
Your president of parliament was there and she's like, well, I'm going to be wearing a bright orange traditional, outfit. And I was lucky to spot her on the float, get some good pictures of her. My phone didn't cooperate very well, but I got the camera. And she had the very, very traditional, style, dress and so it's not all just, oh, hey, very flamboyant and jewels and craziness that you expect, you think of like Mardi Gras or things like that, mm-hmm. It's like there was people trying to bring that element in and say, hey, look, and there was people trickled throughout in there that had the traditional outfits on it and to show that like it's not all just crazy partying. It's this is where it's kind of started and it kind of keeps it grounded and shows that history. So I think that's great. And people are still trying to keep that.
Yes. And we're happy. Actually, a couple of years ago, we started that whereby the Carnival Foundation brought back that each troupe has to have a cultural piece or pieces in it. So some you'll see go by with one piece and others with more.
Yeah. And then I noticed that. Yeah. I was like, well, there wasn't many, but it seemed like each section had at least one person.
Because that's how we're trying to evolve it and merge it back in, that it is important to showcase it. And actually in November 11th is another big day for us where we say always November 11th is Christopher Columbus discovered. We have a cultural parade. And the president of parliament is always in it as well, and all of us, and we have cultural wear on. So every island has their different patterns. Yeah. So the cultural parade are these beautiful cultural dresses, like you saw she had on. But then now the Dutch side, the key was back in those days that whatever cloth you had, you made the dresses. So you will have patches. Some of them have patches, or they use this color first, a print in flowers and a print in with fruits, or madras. Madras is more French Caribbean. So that was a French accent. So depending on the color match of Madras, the French side wears Madras. So we are not, if we're going in a cultural parade like November, we on the Dutch side cannot wear Madras because that doesn't represent us. Unless you come from that descent and you're living on the Dutch side, of course you can wear it. But that is originally how you distinguish. And we have these beautiful, and then we do different dance like around like circles, but it's gorgeous. And this year or last year in November, it was huge. A lot of people came out and you saw these beautiful dresses. And so that's where we bring in culture back in. So in Carnival, that's what we're trying to do, is bring that culture back in. We need to.
Yeah.
So we all want to be on the same page.
And I like that because, and that's kind of this, that element's in any culture we've been to. You go to a lot of the Middle East countries, you go like Scotland and other places, like the patterns meant something. Like each kilt had a different pattern and a different color. Each scarf has a different color, a different pattern, something like that. And it represents where they're from or that specific family or maybe their religion, and their family name. And that's something that, no one really pays attention to until you hear it and you're like, oh, I didn't know that. And then you start looking and you're like, oh, they are all the same. I thought that was green and thought that was this plaid or this pattern. And then you're looking and you're like, no, that one's different than that one. And that was different than that one. So it's a great thing to learn.
Absolutely.
This actually is a great segue because one thing that Ryan and I focus on a lot is sustainable tourism.
Yeah.
And obviously preserving the culture is a very important part of sustainable tourism. But tourism is the main economy, if I'm correct, for Sint Maarten. So how in other ways are you promoting a sustainable tourism model moving forward to obviously for every aspect, from water protection, sanitation, to energy use at these hotels and so forth? What different ways are you trying to make it a responsibility of the island to also look forward to a sustainable model?
Yes. And I like that question, Joelle, because we're now at a crossroad where many big countries such as Europe and Spain have gone to over-tourism. To me, that means we as marketers and promoters have done our job, right? And what happened with us here too, to put a perspective on St. Maarten, is here we are since the 1960s, started with tourism, and we are in 2026, where these last 2 years we've done a lot with digital marketing, where all of a sudden St. Maarten became so popular that even last summer we were busy and we had congestion because you're a small island with 3 main roads, honestly. That's counting only the Dutch side, but 1 main road in the French side, 4 in total. And then you have 40,000 people living on the French side, 50,000 people on the Dutch side, and then everybody, plus your tourists coming. And we have this flock of increase, almost doubled for last year. Yes, with the airlift and everything. So here you are now with the challenge, of course, of having so many more people. So you got to remember, how do you sustain it? How you sustain your beaches, all of that, but also with climate change. So, it's been a challenge, of course. And one of the things we immediately did, we had an economic forum this year where for the whole week, we tackled all of this. And we said, okay, one thing for sure we do know is for us to then decide, okay, we've got the people coming now. We need to slow down. So we need to go for quality over quantity. It is not about quantity. You cannot sustain the quantity. We don't have the infrastructure for it. It's already affecting us. So we do realize that. So now what we're going to do is try to showcase, really, like we said, not only the culture, but the places they can stay, concentrate on, let's call it premium travel, luxury travel, without losing the touch. So for us, it's about less people and the quality of people coming, targeting those that can spend money here and that want to spend money on things like this, like, really knowing the people, really going out on maybe a catamaran, go around the island. But what we've done also is we have this target where we have a volunteerism program, where there's this trend now where people like to come either as couples or families, and they want to contribute. So we have these different NGOs or organizations that say, okay, we have cleanup, beach cleanup. And actually families come on vacation, but take their kids on a responsible beach cleanup. So there's this whole program on volunteer. It's called volunteer.sx. And you can go on there and on your vacation decide, okay, I want to do this. I want to feel responsible. And we realize there are more people that want to do that than we think. So we feel that we need to combine that together with targeting, more of the, let's say, as I said, quality over quantity, and basically make sure that we can sustain what we have right now, then balance that with the timeline of, okay, what are we going to do with our infrastructure? What are we going to do with, making sure preserving our beaches and our road and our waste management, because it takes a toll too on your island when you have so much, and that is another thing we're working on right now is the waste management. They're wrapping up the program, or basically the whole plan, in order for us to have a better waste management system as well.
Yeah. And you spoke about that, upgrading that, which is great. And they're working on that, the ring road, you said it is. And that's, got to help out with a lot of the congestion and things. But then you see it also in other ways, like here in your beautiful home, you have a gray water system that works, that helps water the lawn and everything else. So you're not wasting water, which is great. And, but then it also comes down to promoting, to visitors that, they have to do their part, like turning off the lights and air conditioning when you leave. Cause it's like no one's in there, and people at home don't do that, but I do that at home. I'm like, I pay for that. I gotta turn, so I leave the room and I'm turning it off, the light off, so, just, people being more conscious of bring a water bottle, fill up and go instead of buying another bottle of water, you reusing your towel more than one day, like they allow, even the states promote stuff like that. And it's like, we don't really need that.
Yeah.
But it helps, and just people doing their part, and it's another way of just respecting us, especially, that's the rules there, just anything you can do to conserve water, conserve waste, reduce and stuff like that. And just show that, you can leave knowing that you're leaving that place just as good as you left it or came to see it, so others can enjoy it as well. I think that's what a huge part of sustainable tourism is getting that mentality that, you can preach all you want, but are you practicing what you preach? And are you actually, or are you just going to go there and say, hey, whatever, it's not my problem, because that's the huge issue. And I think that's where mentalities need to change.
Yeah. Absolutely. And all our hotels have a system. All our hotels have a sustainable system, cards in the room reminding people turn off lights, turn off, because utilities here are expensive and you got to preserve our Mother Earth. So all our hotels have that now part of their program. The towel system, hang things up if you want to reuse it, or, put it down on the floor if you don't. So all of these things, I have to say, are integrated in the hotels already and in our vacation rentals. So that's good. Yeah.
So we'll end on a personal note.
Yes.
What does your perfect day on St. Maarten look like for you?
Oh, wow. My perfect day comes on weekends, right? After hard work, because we work just as hard here in St. Maarten, or sometimes even more.
I've seen it for myself.
You've seen it,
long
right?
days, late nights, early mornings.
Yes. When we want our visitors to have a good experience, we all work around the clock. But my perfect day is when Saturday comes and I just try to sleep a little bit more and wake up, have that coffee. And then we decide on, okay, where are we going to explore? Mind you, we live here, but we explore. So my husband and I, we then decide, okay, let's go explore. And usually because you live on the Dutch side, we say, okay, let's go over to the French side. Let's find new places. So we try to find new places and go and have, depending on the time of day. And then we say, okay, let's go have lunch. Or if it's more towards the afternoon, we say, okay, well, let's go have a glass of rosé. And then we end up sitting there hanging out, chatting, and then we end up having dinner, right? So that's our perfect day. And then Sunday is always about, what local food are we cooking today? Because normally during the week, we cook healthy, right? And I'm not saying local food is not healthy, but you want sometimes that stew pork, and that's my husband's expertise. So then that Sunday we're late. We usually like cook something for us to eat early, but then after the sun gets less hot, starting 3:00, we hit the beach. We walk down to some of the other hangout places on the beach here, whether it's Baba Cool, Boom's restaurant, or K Character. We go have a drink, watch people, and people watching is fun.
Isn't it fun?
Because when you're in the business, it's kind of nice to see, and you get to talk to others, and it's just a satisfaction of being, of course, we both being in the hospitality industry. So, and then we come back and we hang out, and we usually sit on the porch on the deck, and we just watch the ocean and enjoy and get ready for the weekends to end, but in a good way. And just unwind. I really do relaxing now on Saturdays and Sunday, and that's our perfect day,
right?
Yeah, or days, 2 days.
And I think that's something we picked up here too. As easy as we've been, we've always had a couple of hours where we just can sit up and look at the ocean, or walk the beach, or just relax. Because I think that combination we're very impressed. People work hard here. We can definitely see the efforts and so forth. But we also see being an island and these people having island time to relax, appreciate the culture, appreciate the natural beauty. We need to always step back and do that. And so I think that is something that has been very prominent in our experience here on the island. And we're still here for several more days. So I'm sure we're going to even experience it more. But May-Ling, we cannot thank you enough, because May-Ling has been the one who coordinated our trip, the itinerary, and it has been an incredible experience. And I know what we have ahead of us will continue as well. So thank you so much for joining us today and for just sharing so much of what you love so much about where you live.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me do this for you. That you chose Sint Maarten, as we always call it. And you saw just a little bit of it. So we hope to see you back on your vacation.
Absolutely.
And yes, it was truly my pleasure to do it personally myself. And glad both of you liked it.
Oh, like it is the wrong word.
Yeah.
Loved it. Loved it.
Those good have new
Absolutely.
experiences it really go beyond what you're expecting. So that was great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Today, we have the privilege of sitting down with a man whose story is deeply intertwined with the story of Sint Maarten itself. Clarence Derby arrived in the island in 1971 from St. Vincent and has spent more than 5 decades helping shape its tourism, culture, and entertainment landscape. From leadership roles in hospitality with Mullet Bay and Sun Resorts to his service with Princess Juliana International Airport, his impact reaches across the very foundation of the island's growth and global presence. But Clarence Derby's legacy goes far beyond the infrastructure. He is a driving force behind the cultural heartbeat of the island through his work in Calypso and Soca, including his association with Aero and contributions to Hot, 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 along with decades of involvement in Carnival, Summerfest, and youth programs. He has helped shape the identity, opportunity, and pride for generations. Clarence, it's an honor for Ryan and I to have you with us today. So, of course, we're digging in right into questions because you have so much to share. You've spent many years living here, as we just said. Can you share your personal journey and what first drew you to St. Maarten?
Well, first of all, may I just say, take the opportunity to welcome you guys to Sint Maarten on behalf of our own place.
Thank you.
Seascape.
Mm-hmm. We were actually, the Seascape condos is a short-term rental that is absolutely stunning right on the beach in Simpson Bay. It's just the perfect location. You're very much within the community of the people of St. Maarten, and you're in walking distance from some beautiful cafes and restaurants. So this has been actually the perfect location for us for this stay.
Thank you. Yes, to go back to your question, I was a cop in St. Kitts. I was in the Coast Guard in St. Kitts, second in charge of the Coast Guard in St. Kitts, and then decided to come to St. Maarten on a vacation and never left, actually. I was supposed to be court-martialed, but after it was explained to the Commissioner of Police and he understood what I was doing, that was waived. So I came to St. Maarten and got a job first in a liquor store, delivering booze. And then after that, I got a job at the 4SS supermarket, being the main checker, because the 4SS supermarket was the largest supermarket on the island at the time. And they were the agent for Heineken beer and other major products. So every month the boat come in to bring product. I was the person who was responsible to ensure that what was ordered was received and going to the bank and ensure that the monies were paid and stuff like that. And then in 1973, I decided to leave that job and join the Mullet Bay resort at the time. Was the largest hotel on the island. It was 622 rooms, 14 tennis courts, the only golf course, the largest casino, the largest convention space. It had its own medical clinic. It had a branch at the Chase Manhattan Bank. It has 720 employees. And I decided to go to Mullet Bay for one reason only. The reason I wanted to go to Mullet Bay is because I felt that there was a possibility for me to be promoted through the ranks to get from the bottom to the top. So I went and got in the security force because of my police background. And I decided that I was going to be the director of security for all the companies. It was 3 major companies. I was going to be the director of security in 5 years. In 5 years, I was the deputy director of security, and in 6 years, I was the director of security, which meant I was 1 year off. And then after doing that for several years, being involved with the police department here, Interpol, because St. Maarten at the time, they did not have enough police officers. So because of my effectiveness of my security force on this side of the island, they use us for everything. So we correspond with Interpol, with the US, FBI, CIA, etc. They contact me
Impressive.
personally, and then after doing that, I decided to ask my boss for a change, and then he said, "Okay, why don't you move over to the main office?" And then I became the resident manager, taking on the responsibility of the front desk, the reception, reservation, the golf course, beach and pool, housekeeping, maintenance, etc., etc., etc. And I did that for a while, and then I was promoted to deputy general manager, took on some more responsibility. And then another project was built that called the Towers of Mullet Bay, and was a 9-story building with 108 suites, and I was asked to also manage that project. So I did that. And after the closure of Mullet Bay, I continued to manage the golf course and what was left of Mullet Bay. And then I was promoted to the manager, general manager of Mullet Bay, general manager of the Towers at Mullet Bay, and senior vice president of Sun Resort, which is a company that owns everything. And I retired in 2023.
Yeah. Now, Brian now has a question in relation to another aspect of what we would like to know about you.
Yeah. So, with your perspective of someone that, calls this island your home, especially not being originally from here, but now this is, your home. How would you describe St. Maarten's culture, beyond what most visitors typically see? And what does it mean to you?
Okay, very good question, because I think that is missed a lot. St. Maarten has over 130 nationalities, and you can imagine all of those different nationalities bring their culture to St. Maarten. Mm-hmm. So St. Maarten is a melting pot of cultures. So there is no one culture really that defines St. Maarten. There are many different cultures that makes up St. Maarten and the uniqueness of St. Maarten.
Yeah, and I think since we've been here, we really see that I mean, everywhere you go, you see so many different people and the different food.
Yep.
But it somehow feels very much just like one
cohesive.
place.
Yes, very cohesive.
Yes. I don't feel like, oh, that's the natives live here, and this is the Asian section, or where you have like the little Chinatown, or where you have from different cities. It's very much it's everywhere. Everyone's kind of mingled in and feels like one place, which I think is great.
Yeah, we are very fortunate. I'll tell you something that you may not know, is that the euro was introduced in St. Maarten first before it was introduced in Europe.
Really?
Yes, the euro was introduced in St. Maarten as a trial. So what they did, it was introduced on the French side, of course, and pull the francs out for 1 year and put the euro in. And then they pulled the euro out, put the francs back in, and then it was accepted by Europe. So it really started here in St. Maarten.
And what people may not know about St. Maarten that we learned as well is that this is a dollar. The U.S. dollar is the predominant currency here.
Yes, it is.
You can use the other, but it is predominantly the U.S. dollar. And on the Sint Maarten side, which is the Dutch side of St. Maarten of the island, here the primary language is English. You do hear other conversations around you that are different languages, but the predominant language that everyone speaks in business is English. So that is a very fascinating part that people actually don't know about.
Don't know that.
Island.
And I'll tell you what, I speak only English, and that is exactly the reason why I only speak only English, because my uncles went to Cuba and they had to speak Spanish to get along. Mm-hmm. When I came to St. Maarten, there were many different languages, but English was the dominant language. Mm-hmm. Everywhere, even the European from France who come and live on the French side, they all spoke English. So I had no incentive really to learn another, which was not a good idea.
The downside and upside that it's like, oh, it made it easier, but then trying to communicate or be marketable sometimes, like, well, maybe I should have learned a little bit.
And the other thing you need to understand too is that in the early days of St. Maarten, and even now, if you ask someone from St. Maarten, whether it's the French side or the Dutch side, where you're from, there's a St. Maarten. Mm-hmm. There's just a St. Maarten. You will have to ask the French side or the Dutch side, because to the St. Maarten people, the people who live here, there's only one St. Maarten.
Yeah.
And as you can see, we can drive to the French side. There are no managed borders.
Yeah, we walked over on the beach. I think for our first day, we're like, I think we're on the other side now.
Yeah. And one thing we've noticed, we've met so many people on this incredible trip that we're having, and many of them, though they work on the Dutch side, they live on the French side.
Oh, yeah.
There's this absolutely merging of these two cultures.
Yep.
There's a little difference in other aspects, but in relation to the people, it's one heart.
One heart. One island. Because so many people born on the French side are from parents of the Dutch side and vice versa. So at one point after the hurricane in 2017, France came down and they closed the border. They put containers and closed the border. And within a day or two, they realized that's impossible to do, because there's so many movement between the island, between families and friends and everything. It was impossible to close the border.
Yeah, I'm sure that had to make it super difficult. Now going on to some of the about tourism here. I mean, that's obviously you've got a main driver here, and you deal with, I'm sure, over the years with all your background, you've dealt with a lot. So for travelers just arriving here, what do you think they often misunderstand about St. Maarten, or they don't fully appreciate?
Well, I think to go back to the culture, they do not understand that there are over 130 different nationalities living on the island, and how all of that culture is intertwined into our Sint Maarten to make it what it is. I think, I do not believe, and my wife may disagree with me, I do not think there's enough emphasis that is put into marketing Sint Maarten as the one destination, one island, our smallest island in the world, shared by two major European countries. That is one. So when you come here, you get two completely different experience. I think that need to be insist more, because when a tourist comes into Sint Maarten, he needs to know that I am on this fantastic island. I can take advantage of so much more than I was explained or I knew of. And I think that's one of the things that's missing.
Yeah, I think it's they say, oh, it's two places, but I'm like, it doesn't feel like that. With that freedom of travel and the blended cultures, and it's this place is more than just beaches. A lot of certain places you go to, it's like, well, we're going on vacation, and you just go to the beach. And if that's what you want to do, fine. But there's probably closer and cheaper options that come all the way here. So you come here, you get there's that culture and the people and the food that's all blended and has its own uniqueness and personality that you're gonna get a lot more out of it than just showing up and laying on the beach and getting a nice sunburn like I have already. So,
well, I think you're so right, because Sint Maarten, to me, is one of, if not the most unique island in the Caribbean. And I'll tell you why. We have the same beautiful beaches, the same sunshine, the same beautiful rainbow, the same rum punch, and all of that like all the other islands. But what you do not have is the diversity between the French and the Dutch side, and the uniqueness of that combination. That makes Sint Maarten completely different than any other island you can go to in the Caribbean.
Yeah, they having that the treaty from so many years ago that's been honored, and then it never changed. Right. It was such a kind of a breakthrough, and what you can see could be such a positive influence in other parts of the world if you kind of looked at it the same way, where it's like, yeah, maybe you don't have in other areas, you can't have that open border like that as easily, but it ensures that with cooperation, look what can be achieved. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now we want to talk about you a little bit, because you are widely recognized for your passion for music. And when we learned about you've written for Calypso music, you obviously are very involved in soca music. So speak to the music, because as we traveled the last few days, we are clearly realized the music is such an important piece of the culture of this island.
Yeah. Well, music has always been my passion. I was a drummer. But first, I was a steel pan player. You know the steel pan, right? The oil drum. I was a steel pan player. I was very young at the time. As a matter of fact, when we started playing, they had to put a box for me to stand on so I can play the pan. And the thing that fascinated me was that because I was so young, that all the people were around me, all the other great musicians in the band, they were looking at me like, all the people were around me because it's fascinating. This little kid on this drum playing the drum. And then after I joined the police force, and then I was a drummer after that. And after I joined the police force, I kind of put my music career on the side. And then realizing that I couldn't really be involved in too much playing of the music, because I was trying to build my career, and building my career did not allow for me to be too much involved in the actual physical making of music. I decided to start writing. And then we used to have the Caribbean Calypso competition, which means Calypsonians from all over the Caribbean would go to Antigua and compete for the king. And one year, one of our Calypsonians participated in that competition, and I was a little embarrassed when I heard the songs that others were singing and the song that he did. And when he came back, I said, I feel that if anyone is going to represent an island or country in anything, anyone with that knowledge should really help that person to do the best possible job. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, I was not impressed with what you did, and I would like to write for you. And he said, well, I write my own stuff. I don't like to sing other people's stuff. I said, that's exactly why you make a fool of yourself. So he went away. He wasn't too pleased. But then it was time for him to do an album. And he came back and he said, you did promise. So I did 3 songs for him. And that was the beginning of, I wrote like 65 songs for him.
Wow. Just for him.
Yeah, just for him. Or I wrote for maybe 85% of the Calypsonian on this island.
Wow.
Men, women,
Incredible.
children.
You defined a generation then of music. So if I listen to some, you're like, I know who that is.
And then Arrow was my first wife, cousin, and Arrow came here to do a show because I was the biggest promoter on the island, promoting concert in the Carnival, in the festival village for the Carnival. And he came on one of the shows and we had a conversation, and he said, I want to change the soca music. And I said, I agree. You need to internationalize the soca music, because the calypso that we sing here is not understood by someone else who doesn't understand our language. So what we need to do is to make the music in such a way that they enjoy the rhythm and they can dance on the rhythm. Mm-hmm. So he said, I will come back and talk to you. So he came back and he spoke to me. And one day he came in and he said, I was on this plane and I was so hot. And I came up with the idea of the song Feeling Hot, Hot, Hot. So he said, well, I have more, some of it that go, ole, 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 feeling hot, hot, hot. And he said, but I don't know where to go. I should repeat it. And he said, okay. I should repeat it again. I said, repeat it again. And he said, it's too repetitive. I said, repetitive for what? He said, but that is not the format of a calypso, because the calypso format is the band chorus, the first chorus, the band chorus, the first verse, the chorus, back into the band chorus, second verse, etc., etc. It was a pattern, and this took the calypso music completely out of that pattern, and he wasn't comfortable with that at all. Anyway,
the sound though,
right? He went away and had some other his brother and some others say that's the right idea. So he did hot, 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 and then he hit it by putting it on the B side of the album and put 3 other songs up front. So I went to Trinidad because I used to do the design for the Mullaby Carnival show for about 150 people. So I used to do the design. I used to go to Trinidad, buy all the material, come back and make the costume. And he was in Trinidad and he was upset because he said, they're not playing hot, hot. They're not playing the song he gave them. They're playing hot, hot, hot. I said, he said, what are they playing in Sint Maarten? I said, hot, hot, hot. He said, in Aruba, hot, hot, hot. Calypso, hot, hot, hot. I said, did you pay the guys to play that song? He said, yes. I said, how much you pay them to play hot, hot, hot? He said, you got a point there. I said, leave it alone. And then he got an opportunity to go to Europe. This gentleman, Cyril, said, I can take you to Europe, but I can't pay you. You get exposure. And then he told me, he said, I went to Aruba to one of his concerts, and he said, this gentleman, he said he want to talk to me about going to Europe, but the guy is a joker, he doesn't want to pay. So he said, talk to him. So I spoke to Cyril, and then Cyril explained me the whole thing. And I remember I said, "You spoke to that joker?" I said, "He's not a joker." I said, "And I think you should do it." He said, "You got to be kidding me." Anyway, he went, and 2 days after he came, he said, I think I should listen to you. I should go to your work. So I said, take a lot of merchandise, take a lot of record T-shirts and stuff like that, and you can make your money there, and you get exposure. Well, he went to Europe. They had his first concert. It was a Red Cross concert with they had a convention with over 600,000 people. And he did that. So you can see the exposure he got.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And then he went on. He sold out all his merchandise in 3 days, got more merchandise and sold. And then he went to England, and the then manager of the Beatles, before that, there were two brothers who signed a contract with him to do 3 albums and paid them $150,000. And then he called me and told me the manager of the Beatles wanted him to sign a contract and give him twice that amount. So I said, okay. He said, but I can't get out of the contract. Yes, you can get out of the contract. Offer the guy $50,000 or something. And then, so he up and they took it. And Hot 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 was the song that just blew up. I mean, it just went, it was done in 14 different languages. It's incredible.
All because he took an opportunity to go to Europe, and you encouraged him to.
Because money isn't everything.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm trying to teach kids now.
Yeah, doing the same old. That shows you do something a little different and change something, make something new, have something old, and look what happens.
That's right.
I love the lesson that you just said here. It's not always just about the money.
No, it's not.
It's about the passion of what you do, getting your stuff out, getting people to hear it. And what follows from that is where you benefit. And that's the most important part, sharing that music so it goes beyond.
Yeah.
Our last question will be something because
can I just
sure.
And I know you have to go, but I just an example. I was just asked to write a song for Claude Wathey, and Claude Wathey was the founder of the island. And in June, it would be his 100th anniversary. And I was called and I was asked, can you write the song and how much will you charge? And I said, charge. I said, no, I cannot charge for a Claude Wathey song. He said, well, the guy who's going to sing it, he charges $5,000 and we haven't spoken to the arrangers yet. So I said, okay, I'll fix that. So I called the gentleman who I write for, and I said, you charge Claude family $5,000 to sing the song. He said, yeah. I said, well, hold on a while. I said, it's not a political song. You have an opportunity to write something that will go down in history. It's his 100th anniversary. This is the founding father who gave us the opportunity, who gave you the opportunity to be who you are and own what you have, who gave me the opportunity to have what I have, because had he had a different system or policy where people like me cannot come here and develop myself to what I am, I won't be here. So I am going to charge to write a song for the founding father. Impossible. I would not take any amount of money in order to do that.
Yeah, it's giving back, you know.
You know what he said? He said, oh my God, Clarence, I didn't think about it that way. And he said, no. If you're doing it for free, I'm doing it for free. I called the arranger and he said the same thing. He said, wherever you are, I am. So sometimes we don't think. Mm-hmm. You know, we think just grabbing that money, but the principle behind it tells the whole story. Mm-hmm. You know.
Thank you for sharing that. Actually, I'm so glad you shared that story. I think that's a lesson that goes way beyond what we're doing right here. It's a life story that we all should embrace that, because our opportunities is just sometimes meeting people, connecting with people, sharing a story, and making a message that goes beyond the moment.
Of course.
Our last question, because we are here, we are honored to be here during Carnival.
Yes.
And that has been an incredible experience. Yesterday, we went to the parade and definitely saw how ingrained this is in the culture and the people here. You have played an integral role in Carnival in Sint Maarten. So I would love you to share with us a bit about Carnival and your role in it, but also what you want visitors to know about Carnival. So they are drawn here to share this amazing culture that is such deeply ingrained in the island.
Well, thank you. Back in 1973, I was asked by my managing director in the hotel if I can do something for Carnival or like get a troupe together, like you saw on the road yesterday, get a troupe together, because he felt that the major companies needed to participate if we're going to build Carnival. So he asked me to do that. And that's where I just mentioned I went to Trinidad and met Arrow because I started designing the costume. And then based on what I designed, I decide on the material needed. So I would go to Trinidad to a place called Normandy, and they sold most of the Carnival costume for Trinidad in different places, and pick up all of my lame and my silk and all of that stuff and my plumes and brought them back and had someone, did a wire bending for me, and then I would cover the wire and decorate, with some help, decorate that. That went on for a few years, and then the other troop leaders started to bring Trinidadians to do the design. And of course, I cannot compete with someone in Trinidad, like a Peter Mitchell or anyone like that. So I decided to do likewise. So I got a gentleman by the name of Stephen Lee Young. He had a huge group in Trinidad. So I hired him to come and do the Carnival. So that went on for some time. I used to play march myself. I would have the biggest costume, of course. And then because of my Calypso writing, I started writing Calypso for the competition. And then I did the promoting. I started promoting, bringing in some of the biggest band in the Carnival village every year. So I was known, City Entertainment was known for, everybody looked forward to coming to see the entertainment show. And the reason I was able to dominate is because every year they'd come out with a Carnival schedule. So I took it to my office one time, and I heard the girl say, "Oh my God, he is coming? I'm going to that show. Oh, he is coming too? I'm going to that show. And maybe I go to this one." So I went back to my office and I said, "Clarence Derby, if you're going to be involved in promoting, your show has to be one of the two shows that say, I'm definitely going to this show." So how to do that? I said, how to do that? You have to be more creative than the others. You have to spend more money than the others. And you have to involve other people who know about the music, like the DJs on the radio station, stuff like that. So I'll go to the DJs. If I have someone in mind, I'll go to the DJ and I'll say, "Who shall I bring?" And they'll say, "Well, you can bring this person." And that's a person I want to bring. But I say, "I don't think so." And I say, "Man, that guy is hot. He's going to do well." I said, "Boy, I don't think so." But a few days after, I'll book the guy and I'll go back and say, "You know what? I don't think this guy is going to work. But because you said to bring him, I'm bringing him." So now the DJs, they feel like they have a responsibility to make it work. So
hype it up. Like, well, I got to prove it wrong.
Hype it up. So then I was then put on the Calypso committee, and then I was a judge in Calypso. I was a judge in Caribbean Queen Show. I was a judge in many different things, and I continue to help by giving the stadium used to be mud at the time, so I used to buy gravels, truckload of gravels in order to spread in the village, and then the backstage was a mess, and I was bringing, I think it was Shaggy at the time, and I couldn't let him go there, so I had to get mason and tradesmen to go in and fix up the whole of the back room with an air condition and carpet and furniture and mirrors and everything in the room. And I continued to do that for years and years. And I was honored. And today I have a VIP lifetime pass to go to the Carnival.
When you should.
Well
You're
earned.
integral to the history of Carnival.
Yeah.
Clarence, we cannot thank you enough for your time today. You have provided so much deep look into the culture of this island, but we also learn here that you are integral to that culture, and actually very much what we're seeing is because of your work to get us here.
Well,
So thank you so much, Clarence. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Wanderer's Compass travel podcast. New episodes air every second Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You can follow the show at bigblendradio.com and keep up with Joelle and Ryan's adventures at wandererscompass.com.